Yo, can you hear me? You listening to
WAW. What a week.
Eta, welcome to Wow, What a Week. Our guest today. What does it look like when a whiskey brand stops slapping logos on stages and starts building actual rooms where African creatives can cook and have discussions and get to know one another and be honest about looking in the mirror, what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? The man behind the curtain is in the building today. He's culture marketing manager at Diageo, architect of Afro Exchange, and the guy who has to convince boardrooms that vibes are in fact a strategy. This week, we find out what his week actually looks like, and we'll also talk about the Afro Exchange. All of that is coming up.
This is Wow! What a week. What a week. Celebrity guest. Celebrity guest.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest is in the building. Mpimy Mashimbye is culture marketing manager at Diageo. They are the architects of Afro Exchange. Mpimy, welcome, my dude.
Hi there. How you doing?
Well, good, man. What's in the name, Mpimy? What does that mean?
It's short for Mpimanyeto. It's Tsonga.
Yes.
I'm the last born at home. So it is literally, this is as far as the budget stretches.
So we're done.
We're done.
Yes.
I was lost by design and I'm lost to this day.
Now you're the one saying last drinks at the bar.
100%. Exactly.
Welcome to Wow What a Week. My dude, we're going to get into your week before we get into Afro Exchange. A couple of questions. I'll be gentle, I promise. Nothing a couple of shots of whiskey can't fix.
Let me hear it.
What's the one thing that happened this week that had you thinking, this is precisely why I do the job that I do?
I think it's hard to put it as one singular thing because the project moves in so many different shapes or forms, whatever the project is. But I think it's just being able to get everybody on the same page, be able to leave a call knowing that, okay, this matter is closed, as opposed to saving it for a week from now. And that feels good. That relieves a lot of anxiety as well. So that's a big achievement, bigger than the actual project itself for me.
Worst logistical headache you've had to deal with this week?
Getting everyone to deliver what they need to deliver on time and making sure that we also have the same shared understanding of what needs to be delivered. Getting another call and realizing that we prioritized this, we delivered this, and then there was this whole other list of things that no one was speaking about when it was when we were having a full conversation.
And I guess also getting everyone to understand that you're part of you're a cog in a bigger setup.
Yeah.
If you drop the ball, every ball is affected.
Exactly. Yeah. It cascades, it becomes a bigger issue and the time is lost.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're herding cats?
Every now and again, it really, really does feel like that. It sometimes feels like I'm not necessarily forced to do the hands-on thing, but I need to check in with so many people to make sure the right thing's being done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Best meal you've had this week and where was this?
Best meal I've had this week was papa kamasapo. My mom is around this week, so I'm getting a lot of home-cooked meals.
That is dope.
Yeah, so I'm having a fantastic time. I'm getting soup tonight.
Pap with bones and just the right amount of salt. That's all you need.
100%.
It doesn't have to be complicated.
No.
You might add a bit of morohonyana or delele, depending on if delele is your thing, but that's all you need.
That's garnish.
Yeah. That is dope. The one thing that had you thinking, I wish mom actually lived here with me?
It's how frequently she's doing the laundry. So
she doesn't let it pile up?
Not at all.
Oh, wow.
Like, literally as I was leaving today, she was like, where are your clothes from gym yesterday?
Yes.
And I'm able to give that to her. Before I actually left home, they were already on the line.
I needed your mom during boarding school because I'd let everything pile up and then I'd repeat the socks. Sometimes I'd repeat socks so often they'd stand on their own because they've been repeated for so long.
No, socks are tricky. Sock management is tricky. I don't know why we don't have as many pairs of socks as we should.
Yeah.
But we just don't. I don't think anyone does.
Absolutely. One creative you encountered this week or whose work you encountered this week that blew your mind?
Very, very tricky. Man, I wish I could name an African right now, but not particularly new, but someone I'm constantly listening to is Lupe Fiasco.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, always having a new relationship with some of his work. I've been listening to drill music in Zion this week quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, but absolutely love it.
One rap album you would commit to listening to every day for the rest of your life if that's all that was left on the planet. What's that album?
So, additional context.
Yes.
Lupe Fiasco is my favorite rapper.
Okay, so it would be
So
Lupe.
it would be Lupe Fiasco's The Cool.
Yes.
I think that is his most well-rounded album. It is, the storytelling is fantastic. It's beautiful. It's lyrically dense. So I constantly go back to that and find something new. And I started listening to that way back when, like almost 2 decades ago. Yeah,
And still it goes.
absolutely.
Looking at your week this week, what's the soundtrack?
Tricky question. How long of a pause can I get off of it? I guess.
We can edit it out. If it's 10 minutes, we'll give you a minute of it.
Fair enough. Soundtrack for this week. I'm trying to remember what I've been, proper stimming. But,
Yes.
there's that song by Hosier that I can't remember the title of. The one that was really, really big last
Take
year.
Me to Church.
No, that was
Okay.
a few years ago. So
Okay.
last year he had like this, I think that was his biggest single
Ah,
yet.
okay.
Trying to remember where it's like, it can't be said I'm an early bird. It's 10 o'clock before I get to work. If you can Google the lyrics while I say them, I can give you a few lines to go off of.
Okay. There's Unreal Earth. There's
Uh,
Like Real People.
no. So this would be a 2025 release.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. But I know, not lately. Lately was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, but a Hosier song.
But a particular Hosier song that I'm
Yes.
starting to remember, I pretty much listened to that from home all the way to work.
If your life this week was a movie, what genre movie would it be?
It's a dramatic action.
Yeah.
It's like running from left to right, ducking under a table, making a phone call, and threatening the person on the other side.
That was my next question. And be honest.
Yeah.
Have you lost your temper this week?
No, I hardly do.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, I hardly do.
Yeah, you look like a chilled guy.
Yeah. Like,
You look like the kind of guy that would say, oh, you poked my eye out. It's a good thing I have another one.
I actually had a colleague say to me recently,
Yeah.
I've never seen you upset.
Yeah.
I've never seen you mad. And the reality of it is just like, it's not going to help you to see
Sure,
me upset.
yeah.
I might be upset right now, but
Sure.
this is how we get everything through.
What does piss you off, though?
Constantly having to remind people that it's okay to think for themselves.
Ah, yes.
So it's like, this is the whole picture. This is what we need to do.
Sure.
But you don't have to come check with me at every single stage. We've already agreed on the outcome.
Don't force me to micromanage you.
Yeah, because I really don't want to.
Yes.
Like, I often joke about how everything I do is to be left alone. So if I am giving you the opportunity to be left alone, grab it
Yes.
with both hands.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I love it. 2 more questions.
Sure.
What did your lady call you out on this week?
Have you been in my messages?
I cannot deny or confirm that.
So I had my weekly game of paddle with my friends last night.
Yes.
I did not let her know when I was on my way there, and I posted when I was there.
Oh, so she found out on social media.
Found out on social
She found out with the
media.
public.
She found out with
How
the public.
dare you?
Yeah.
Elementary old chap.
Yeah.
Yo.
So I was like, I don't want to make excuses about it. Like, I should have said something.
Yes.
But yeah, that was that was the tiff.
Yo.
Yeah.
Finally, What happened this week, though, that reminded you why you chose her?
Well, that's a beautiful question. I think a lot of the time, I'm reminded of that daily.
Yes.
She is very, very funny. So before I didn't tell her where I was, we had some decent chuckles.
Yes.
You know, I think that's basically the most important thing for me. I can be quite serious.
Yes.
She breaks the tension in a lot of our conversations with such natural ease that I appreciate it
Yes.
daily.
And it's an art.
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes in relationships we make the mistake of trying too hard to break tension or ice or melt ice, but it's not the time for that.
Yeah.
So it's like knowing when to do it and when not to do it and when to just shut up.
And that's the tricky thing, because to her it comes naturally.
Yes.
To me, it's like, okay, cool. I see we just had this conversation. I kind of want to be lighthearted about everything, but I know it's not going to land because I don't have the skill she has for it. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk the Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange Creative Summit. What on earth is that?
So the Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange Creative Summit is, sure, a bit of a mouthful, but to put it in simple terms, it is the Keystone Culture platform for Johnnie Walker on the continent, where we bring together emerging artists, emerging creatives, as well as well-established creatives, to have an exchange of their own experiences, their own thinking, and how they're able to then multiply that effect with one another, and just facilitating that for the creatives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the PR line is infrastructure, not sponsorship. But let's be real. When you're sitting in internal meetings at Diageo, how hard is it to sell the distinction to people who just want a return on investment and where's our logo?
Fair. So you start the conversation from a very, very different place.
Yeah.
Where when you're doing the sponsorship, it's really about how big is that platform? What are we going to get out of it? When you're doing infrastructure and investment in that sense, this is what this means to us as a business.
Yes.
And what we're telling the world we're about. Sure. We own it. We're not paying to play there. We are building it.
Sure.
And with that distinction, you already get a very, very strong buy-in where people have stronger and more interesting opinions around the directions we should be going in, because we're all familiar with what the brand means to the business.
Absolutely. Now, the Afro Exchange obviously bridges music, fashion, art.
Yeah.
And last year, you guys did one already. How do you decide what happens in 2026 based on last year's experience? Like, how do you decide what to keep and what to repeat?
So a big portion of last year, with that being the very first year of it, it's an announcement. It is, we are here. This is Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange. And that narrative was more about celebrating African art, bringing in artists from different parts of the continent and having that work live in that environment. Where we are evolving into now in 2026 is the work is ongoing. People are creating whether or not we're in the room with them. How do we then further enable that? How do we support that? How do we shine a light on that?
Sure.
So it's less about all of the big established names that we could have booked last year, and it's more about what value can we add to the creators who, one, we're aware of.
Yes.
Two, we may have worked with in one shape last year. Maybe you were a panelist last year. This time you're actually on the lineup. That's a distinct difference, And in the conversations we then have, there's a bigger focus this year on the discussion surrounding it and what the outputs of the summit itself are and how we have those live and breathe.
What would you say last year's lasting legacy will be that if the thing was cancelled today, we'd remember about last year?
I think what we would remember about last year is that we actually did what we said we're going to do around connecting two different cities.
Yes.
We said we would connect Johannesburg and Lagos. We did that. We did it through the food that was available. We did it through the acts that were booked. And that work can't be undone. It's not a Sunday where you go to a club or this, that, and the other, and you find the artist you'll find a month from now.
Absolutely.
That was special.
When it comes to curating the lineup, the panelists, the artists, the food even, it can't be an easy task. I mean, do you have a board of panelists that do the curating? How does it work? I mean, do people get an opportunity maybe to recommend, suggest, vote?
Yeah, so I sit here as one person, but there's a very, very large machine that goes into this. So there are different teams. It's not the same team deciding the menu that's working on who the panel is or who the acts are. So that is a whole process. It takes months and months of work. People see the event. I see the spreadsheet.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, all of that happens on an ongoing basis. And it's also, it's not a science. You'll change the name next week if something just doesn't feel right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, obviously with events come activations.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the differences, whether major or nuanced, between doing an activation in Lagos and in Johannesburg. Because these are two totally different beasts.
Yeah. Logistically and even just experientially. So December 2025, I was in Nigeria for one of our sponsored events, and one of the differences logistically is just things like starting times.
Yeah.
You know, like we have a culture in South Africa of where you can start in the morning or you can start around lunch, this, that, and the other. And the event carries through up until 10 p.m., maybe midnight. I got there around 10 to midnight, and I'm being told it's not open yet. You know?
Okay.
So that's a completely different set of hours you're working against. And because of that, the mood is very, very different. It picks up in energy a lot quicker because it's already after midnight.
Absolutely.
You know, like we still sit down and have the little bit of chit chat. You have a lot of events where we have like seating areas that are designed for conversation.
Yes.
And that's just not happening as naturally or as frequently in an environment like that.
And I find that fascinating about, I don't know if it's more in the global north, including on the continent, where you'll get to a venue and it's empty. Then you'll blink and it's packed. Like it was never empty. It's the wildest thing ever.
100%. It is such a strange thing, particularly the area surrounding the dance floor.
Yes.
One moment it's empty, the next you can't get to the bar.
At a cultural level, and based on how you are raised as a child wa Limpopo versus, for instance, how Nigerian people might be raised themselves, how do you navigate the nuances of respect? And because we do things in a certain way, we need to understand that they might do things in a certain way. How are you managing that? Because I believe we need to be intentional in managing such relationships.
We really, really do.
Yeah.
And it starts with compassion.
Yeah.
It starts with also understanding that the person on the other end of this conversation isn't inherently out to get me.
Yes.
You know?
We're on the same team.
We're on the same team. We want the same outcome.
Yeah.
So even if something comes off culturally, whether from my end or their end, in a way that's difficult to understand, there's a moment you can take that moment to pause and breathe.
Sure.
Yeah, because some of the differences, it's like, you know, like we mentioned, I'm from Limpopo and I am Tsonga, and those are pretty strict parents.
Yes.
You know, they're pretty straightforward about what they want, what your response needs to be at what time, and that just creates a bunch of different personalities that we're dealing with, because it's not just South Africa and Nigeria. It's those are the primary two, but we have Ethiopia, we have Angola, we have a bunch of different countries that we're working with. So as long as we're constantly inviting each other to the conversation, we somehow manage.
Who is going to be in the room, since you're already telling us some of the countries?
So some of the countries, well, actually more around the creators who will be in the room. Creators in the room will be, one, we have our panelists, and they have a number of guests that they'll be able to invite for their on their own part.
Okay.
We will have the media present, or we'll have culture journalists in the room as well.
Okay.
We've got mentorships, so we have mentors who will be in the environment as well to take a bunch of the creatives we have in there, around there. But everyone in the room is skewed towards being a creative, whether well established, whether new, and just driving the conversation, and that how should I put it? That the cultural crossover.
So who needs to give a damn about this initiative? Who are you targeting?
For one, I think everyone should give a damn. And the reason I say so is the moment you wake up and do anything at all, you are automatically a walker, whether you know it or not.
Yes.
Because the ethos of that is, like when we talk about keep walking, I think maybe 15 years ago, there was one opinion of it and what it looked like.
Yes.
There was the Vilakazi Street TV commercial that was out, but that's not necessarily the extent of it. Right now, it's around, I'm already on a journey. I'm meeting people on that journey. When I get to a certain place and enter a certain room, the first call I make is the people I've been on the journey with, throughout this process. So everyone has a reason to actually care about this, but particularly it would be any creator in any discipline.
Okay.
Where it's a matter of, reach out. We are actually paying attention.
Okay.
We do want to work with you. We do want to know what that support looks like.
Sure.
Who can we introduce you to? Because we already have a network that we've established as well. And if it's people we're already working with, what else can we do together?
So what is the size of said room? And for those that can't physically be in the room, how do we get access to the room?
So there will be 500 people in the room on the day. For those who can't physically be there, there will naturally be a bit of a film/docu that we put out that lives after the fact.
So no stream though?
It won't be a live stream.
Okay, it won't be a live stream,
but
okay.
Yeah, but we will have a few podcasts also coming out to the same sort of effect, with a few episodes that speak about it.
Okay.
But it's also not a piece of work that ends just because that day is over.
Absolutely.
So the next time you interact with Johnnie Walker at something that we're even sponsoring, this evolves the way we even sponsor and the way we show up for those events.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in fact, what would your role be? I mean, I heard you talking earlier on about the fact that regardless of, it doesn't matter who you are or where you are in your life, Keep Walking is bigger than just Johnnie Walker.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll give you an example. I mean, since I was probably a teenager, there's two things I've stood by. The one is a quote by Hannibal. And Hannibal famously said, "We shall find a way or make one." And I've lived by that nothing that does not talk will stand in my way. And that's been my attitude. And I think that's why I've managed to be in the industry for 30 plus years, because I refuse. If there's no door, we better build one then. Like, why is there no door here? That's been my attitude. My other attitude is, if you're going through hell, keep going. And both of them speak to keep walking. Absolutely. That you can't afford to stick around and wait or feel sorry for yourself. You have to keep walking. What's your role at Afro Exchange?
So our role at Afro Exchange is we're facilitating the gathering.
Sure.
We don't make music. We don't paint.
Some music has been made from people who had a whole bottle of you, though. So
I mean, you know what? That's
so you facilitate in more ways than one.
Responsibly. But so our role pretty much looks like that. How do we facilitate spaces where the creation can happen, where new collaborations can take place? Every album has album art. Who is doing the art if not a visual artist?
Yes.
You might meet the person who will design your next album art at Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange.
In fact, you spoke about responsibly when I mentioned the fact that, sometimes after a nice night out with a bottle, you want to go to studio and make great music. Obviously, there will always be people who talk about, but it's alcohol. What about responsible drinking? Why are you operating in this space? What do you say to people who are worried about responsible drinking, about alcohol, etc.?
So that is something we take very, very seriously wherever it is we show up, particularly for the Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange Creative Summit.
Sure.
Among the different stations where you will have artists creating a mural, or where you'll have, mentors taking you through fashion, music, etc., We do also have a specific setup around responsible drinking through Drink IQ, where for one, you will be able to go there, take a breather, have a water, take a seat. And we will also be just driving more information around that. You can go to the drinkiq.com website to get information around what your relationship with drinking looks like as an individual as well, and how to be more responsible about it. And we're also heavily encouraging you to Uber to the event. This doesn't need to turn into a story that goes beyond having a good time.
Absolutely. But after all is said and done, the lights are off and the cameras are off and everyone's gone back home. What would a successful Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange Creative Summit 2026 look like to you? In your mind's eye, what would, you know what, we hit the ball out the park look like for you?
We hit the ball out the park for me would look like, it's quite hard to express beyond, you work with KPIs, you want to reach a certain number of people, you want this, that, and the other. But the intangibles are where I think the true value sits, where it's a matter of, did someone come to us either on the day or in the weeks after, in the month after, and express an interest in trying to create something else?
Sure.
Because from my perspective and my view, this is a single day, but it shouldn't end there. Yeah. It's a start. Yes, we did one thing last year. We have another piece of it this year, but neither one of those things mean we've reached the actual thesis of it.
Yes.
The thesis of it is the fact that it needs to continue. We need to talk to you more. It's a matter of, in 2027, we don't know what we're going to do yet.
Sure.
That might be sitting with you. Work with us. Make the call. Take the number.
So, and I ask for you to answer this humbly. So if Diageo pulled the budget for Afro Exchange tomorrow, what would you say would survive without the brand's money? What collapses if you pull the plug today, but the summit must carry on?
But the summit must carry on.
Yeah.
We have people who believe in the concept. So without the people, even with the money, we're flat.
Sure.
So the one thing that would remain is, you don't delete my number just because the budget was switched off last night.
Yeah.
I can still make that call. And based off of that, whether we're doing it in the middle of Mushroom Park, and it's a guerrilla style collection of people,
Yes.
we're still doing the work. And we're still doing what needs to be done, even if there are no cameras around.
Okay, so keep walking anyway, whether the money's there or not.
100%. And it's who you're with.
Absolutely. Now, interestingly, you describe yourself as someone who markets with the culture and not to it. Where's the line? When, for instance, have you seen a brand, not necessarily yours, cross it? And what did that teach you?
So it's tricky. I'm not going to sit here and name brands.
Yes, we'd rather you don't. Or you can, and we have a debate episode next week. It's up to you.
I've still got a long career ahead of me. I don't want any partnerships I'm trying to build thrown out the window.
Yeah, he's a rabble rouser, that one. We don't want him here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's about synergy. Why are we together? Why do we make sense together? Do we share an ethos, or am I simply trying to reach your audience? So what I'm not a big fan of is simply saying, okay, you want this amount of money and you're going to give me this number of people.
Sure.
Why should we be telling a story together? That's the biggest thing for me. And I see quite a bit of that, where you see brands partnering with perhaps a clothing brand,
Sure.
but you're not connecting it back to what that means for your brand.
Yes.
You've driven a whole campaign around it, and you have merch you've created, this, that, and the other, but your brand purpose isn't in it.
Yes.
And for me, it's like, how do I go to sleep knowing I didn't put my brand purpose into the thing I committed to doing?
Yes.
What
is your story? Because that needs to also touch me.
In terms of putting these pieces
together. I'm just adding to what you're saying.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, what is exactly? Because that's how you build brand affinity.
Yes.
You didn't just see me, you felt me.
Yes.
And that struck a chord close to home. It's like, hearing a song for the third time, or looking at a painting that's hanging in your house for the nth time,
Yes.
and you notice a new detail, and that creates an emotional connection as opposed to how hot it was when it dropped,
Yes.
or how much you paid for the piece of art, or how many millions people must have paid to have their brand shown here.
I'm going to put you on the spot with a live pitch.
Okay, let's hear it.
So we're doing a series of Fresh House Flavor parties. And Fresh House Flavor has been around for 28 years now, 28, 29 years. And it's small, intimate, 1,000 people, Fresh House Flavor parties.
Small, intimate, 1,000 people.
Yes, because
Casually.
we could do big, intimate with 10,000.
Got you.
And we're targeting people that have walked with House Flavor over the last 28 years. And they are on their own journeys. But the long and the short of it is we're all walking on whatever the journey is.
Yeah.
And Fresh House Flavor has been the soundtrack to all of that. Would that be a synergy with you guys or not?
I think there would be a synergy. It would literally. So I'm a very, very practical person. So when I look at it, it's almost a matter of, what are those dates? Because I need to plan it against the calendar I already have mapped out in my own head.
Yeah.
But as far as narrative building goes, you've already got 28 years of this thing behind you. You've got a community. You've got a following for it. And above and beyond that, we've already started breaking down what the narrative surrounding that would be. I think it could be an interesting story to tell. We'd need to map it out.
So to people who want to come to Diageo, whichever of your million brands, and come with a proposal, what are people doing wrong when coming to you as a marketer to say, let's work together, I've got this great idea? And often it looks great on paper, but people can't articulate what's up here or convince you beyond what's on paper. How do you decide, after all is said and done, that this is what we want to be a part of because it makes sense?
So it's a tricky balance between what our priorities look like versus what we're receiving based on where our priorities have been.
Sure.
So sometimes it's a tricky balance where we need to look inward and say, well, I'm receiving this because 2 years ago I was doing this.
Yes.
So that's the one part that we need to hold ourselves accountable to if we're unhappy with a proposal. But from the outside version where we're receiving something and we're then addressing it, it's I think one of the most difficult portions for me is always you're not expressing why this matters to my brand and its narrative. You're putting this in terms of, this is what I require from you.
Sure.
You have the opportunity to place your logo. You have the opportunity to place a bar. Like, we'll be doing that in multiple places anyway.
Yeah.
What is unique about the story you would like to actually have us tell together? What is unique to Johnnie Walker that made you bring this to Johnnie Walker and not one of our competitors?
Yeah.
Do
you want money or do you want to tell a story?
Yeah, man. Like, it's at the moment it feels like it's really just to fund the thing.
Yes.
It is a little bit off-putting. It's because the reality of it is I'm a creative at heart as well.
Yeah.
So it's not inspiring to look at something where all that's required is a rand value.
There's just one budget, these ones.
Yeah. So what's the dream?
Yes.
What's the dream?
Absolutely.
And maybe if it's not for this brand, maybe I see that your dream aligns with a brand that I might not be touching at the moment.
Absolutely.
And we can make that connection for you too.
Before we wrap up with Afro Exchange Creative Summit, what's the dream, Vele, for you? Because obviously you're on a journey.
Yeah.
And you're going to keep walking. And at some stage, you're going to look beyond Johnnie Walker, maybe even look beyond Diageo. As a young marketer, what is the dream?
The dream for me, which also speaks to what I feel my purpose overall to be, is being able to actually connect the creatives in a meaningful way. So, and that can look like the different outputs. Earlier on, I mentioned if it's the album art and you just met the artist now, then that's the output you've had.
Yes.
Maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, someone says they've been working with someone for 10 years and they met through the Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange Creative Summit.
Yes.
That is a win. And that is not in a way where it's actively generating value for the current KPI. That campaign will have been closed, But the fact that those two people know each other, the fact that they're working together, the fact that they're also supporting each other through whatever different struggles they face, because creatives face a lot of them. If people then have one another and that's the legacy of this, then we've done our job.
So, in closing, Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange Creative Summit, what are the details, or where do we get more details?
Great. So in the days to come, you'll be able to, as a member of the public, you'll be able to sign up, get a ticket online, join us on the day. We will be having it in Bryanston at the Forum.
Okay.
Show up if you have a ticket, but that'll be on there.
Don't make it awkward, please.
That'll be happening on the 11th of April, but all of that information will be on the Johnnie Walker Africa Instagram page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My dude, thank you for hanging out.
Of course.
Your agency had said we must interview you and also have a personality to a celebrity. And I was like, no, he's enough. That's all. We just need one interview. We don't need to pepper things up. So thank you for being a pleasure to talk to.
Awesome. The vote of confidence before meeting me speaks volumes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Where do we find you on social media if we want to interact with you? Is that a possibility?
The brand, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On Instagram at Johnnie Walker Africa. That is our primary platform. That is where that's where most of the communications are pretty much managed in and out of.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mpimy Mashimbye, Culture Marketing Manager at Diageo, Afro Exchange by Johnnie Walker. Go online, go to their website, get the details, get yourself a ticket, and go and learn, and more importantly, go and contribute. We often love being flies on the wall in rooms thinking what I have to say doesn't matter. There's never, ever a stupid question. If anything, it's the answer that might be stupid. But contribute and ask the questions. And we're done. It's another episode of Wow, What a Week, brought to you by Johnnie Walker Afro Exchange. Until next week, we are out of here. Shout out to Trevor and his crew at Pezulu Works. If we looked good, it's thanks to them. And if we looked bad, it's thanks to our mothers. Also shout out to Keletso Modisa King, our executive producer, and to the crew at Africa Podcast Network. Until next week, we're out of here. Have a wow week in spite of yourselves.